So about a month ago, CageSide Convos uploaded this video, 15 things that I would change about the UFC right now, and I know it's awkwardly just on his lips right now, but that's how the video begins because he starts the video by getting into it. See, there we go, it's a little bit, it's how the video begins, I just realized that. But today, I wanted to react to it. I put it in a playlist of videos that I'd like to react to in all of my channels over here, and this is one of them that I put there immediately because I liked a lot of things that he had to say in this video, and I wanted to give my opinion on it, and this is a video that I thought about making myself for a very, very long time. I'm a big fan of CageSide Convos. I love the video, and I don't exactly remember what was in it because, again, I watched it a month ago, so you kind of get an authentic reaction from me. We're going to get into this in just a second. Before we do, though, I do want to say hello, everybody, and welcome back to another video. If you're new here, my name is Kyle. I'm your guy with many YouTube channels. Let's watch this video by CageSide Convos.
If you're anything like me, you are an absolutely massive UFC fan. Okay, let me first start off this video by saying that I love the UFC. It is bigger than any other MMA promotion, and to me, is the greatest sport in the world.
It absolutely is, and I agree with that, but for my favorite promotion, I have been outspoken about this. My favorite promotion is One Championship, but UFC is a very, very close second.
Let me just start off by saying that, because I'm going to be very negative in this video, because just like every MMA fan ever, as much as I love the UFC, there are problems with it. There's problems with the rule set. There's problems with the scoring. There's problems with the venue, management, the rule sets around how championships operate. There's
a lot that can be fixed about the UFC, and I'm sorry, I don't remember why I put this on the playlist, but it must have been a really good video. And again, this is something that I would like to touch on in my own particular video. I'm going to be making a video soon, the best and worst things about each promotion that I watch.
A lot of problems with the UFC that in this video, if you made me the de facto Dana White, these would be my executive orders within the first week.
Here we go. CageSide Convos, the greatest MMA promotion idea man of all time. I don't know what I was supposed to say there, but sorry.
Okay. Now, none of these are going to be game-breaking by any means. Actually, no. Let me take that back. There's going to be a few of these that are going to change the sport a little bit. But in my mind, this is going to change it for the better. In my time of watching this sport for, I shit you not, 12 years now, these are the problems that have always stuck out to me. But before I begin this legendary rant, please consider a like, comment, subscribe.
And guys, honestly, go subscribe over to CageSide Convos if for some reason you aren't. Honestly, you need to go show that channel some love. It's one of my favorite MMA channels, and it's honestly smaller compared to the mainstream ones, but the content there is absolutely fantastic.
And if you have a friend that would like this video, please consider us share. And if you don't, just copy the link. It helps me in the algorithm. And with that long-winded intro out of the way,
let's go.
Let's get started. Number one thing, okay? I want to try to keep like the divisions of changes within the same area. Number one, we're going to start with the judging. Okay, Number one.
That's been a problem for a very, very long time. And especially, I'm recording this video after UFC Saudi Arabia, where we just saw some very, very questionable decisions. And I don't want to say understandably why, because it's not understandable, but the reasonings they've done it are understandable. Doesn't make it right, makes it understandable.
Number one, straight off the bat, 5 judges. We need more judges. I don't trust the 3 judges that we get. My faith in MMA judging was hurt by Paddy Pimblett versus Jared Gordon. And
there's been issues before that, but actually, I don't know. It's been getting worse as time's gone on, but I don't even think 5 judges would necessarily fix this. There just needs to be a serious investigation into judges. They need to answer the why. Like, for example, Jared Gordon versus Paddy Pimblett. They need to answer why they gave that fight to Paddy Pimblett. They need to be scrutinized by the MMA community. They need to be front and center, face plastered everywhere. Somebody who robbed this man of his check, could have possibly changed his life for the worse, and that's what I think more so needs to be done than just making 5 judges, because it'll just be 2 more judges giving the wrong idea.
It died when some motherfucker thought Cheeto Vera beat Corey Sanders.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. That was one of the worst scorecards in history.
I don't care what you say. That dude needs to be investigated. Legitimately. If there's a world where you thought Cheeto Vera beat Corey Sandhagen, you should no longer have a career in judging.
Now, here's my question for you guys, and I truthfully don't know the answer to this. I would love to know what you guys think down below. Like, comment down below, please let me know. Do you think the reason for this is because some of these judges have money, and I understand you're not allowed to bet, but there's always ways that you can have money on a certain fighter, or do you think it's the UFC influencing the judges? I kind of think it's a combination of both, but more so the UFC influencing, because it's not just the judges being incompetent. That's impossible.
You should no longer have a career in judging. I want this man to be outed, put onto the street, so we know that this guy thought Cheeto Vera won.
That's what I think is the best solution to it as well.
when you are dealing with like $150,000 of so-and-win money, and you somehow convinced yourself that Cheeto Vera won, look into that dude's DraftKings Sportsbook. 100% there was something fishy going on with that. 5 judges. Now...
But 5 judges wouldn't fix that. It'd just be 2 more judges doing the same thing.
I want them to pick these judges. I would like them to at least have some combat sports experience. I don't want them to come from boxing, because that's another thing I want to change. And guess what? Most of the judges are not employed by any MMA organization, not the UFC. They barely have anything to do with the UFC. They are recruited by something that's not even connected to the UFC, and I wouldn't have a problem with that, because there is some shady stuff that can happen with that. If the UFC has their own judges, yeah.
That already happens. It doesn't matter if the UFC is there or not. They can have their influence. But another thing that I do like the idea about is like somebody like Chris Lieben being a judge, because you see that now, like some fighters are kind of going into this avenue, and I feel like that he at the very least would be somebody with the fighter's best interests at heart instead of being kind of wooed over by the UFC. But then again, like I'm sure the UFC could have influence over them no matter what.
Sometimes the scoring criteria is going to be a little bit wild.
Dude, the scoring criteria. Don't even get me started on that one. Damage-based scoring is the most ridiculous scoring system you could come up with. It's stupid.
A lot more Son O'Malley's beat Piotr Jan's. But guess what? None of these judges are scoring from an MMA standpoint. Almost all of them come from boxing. That is a fact. It depends on the commission, but most of the time it's boxing. Another thing we're changing, the 10-point system. The 10-point system is one of the dumbest things I have ever seen.
Now, to be honest with you, I don't know how I feel about the 10-point system. Actually, I'm going to let Ethan prove me otherwise with this, because I have mixed feelings about this personally.
Like, I think most people agree. Like, don't get me wrong. It's funny to say you've been 10-7'd. It's funny to say that, 10-8. I hate the scoring system, because it was never designed for MMA. It was only ever designed for boxing. And the reason that the UFC has to use the boxing rule set is because all the commissions in the United States do not have a scoring system.
That's why a lot of one championship fights or peak bouts are judged as a whole in a lot of fights.
That they feel is professional enough for MMA. I shit you not, that's what they had to do. Because when the UFC was first starting, they did it on Native American reservations that didn't really have a commission, and if they did, it kind of could have gone, they didn't really care.
Sorry, I gotta get my dog 1 second. My apologies for that interruption, everybody. Let's continue on with the video.
Or they did it in the middle of casinos. When the commission started stepping in, they wanted them to use a boxing rule set, because guess what? The biggest competition and the biggest proponent of UFC is just human cockfighting. I'm not kidding you. That is a real quote. Guess who that guy was paid by? Yeah, the WBC. Don't you just love career politicians? Bro, it's fucked up. So,
it's, to be honest with you guys, I don't know about you guys, that's not shocking though.
Boxing rule set has no place in MMA. Absolutely not. I'm sorry. Next up, now
But how would you change that though? That's what I want to hear. How would you change that? Would you judge the bout as a whole as one championship does all the times? How else can you really judge it? Because I understand the problems with the 10-point must system, but I would like to see more of a reason for that.
Still doing the rule set, but this we're moving on. Actually, I have one more to add for the judges. I'm just thinking about it right now. Every single judge has to attend a press conference. They have to attend the post-fight press conference.
Absolutely. Put their face out there, make them answer, and not what the UFC has. Not, hey, Judge, can't think of any. Sal D'Amato. Hey, Sal D'Amato, how do you like being in Saudi Arabia? Because that's so what would happen. Because I can guarantee you the UFC, hey, we hear you guys. We're gonna have judges have their own press conferences. Hey, Sal D'Amato, how do you like Saudi Arabia? Has the food been good? Where do you plan on going next? You know? That's what would happen.
They need to do this. Okay? I want reporters to look them in the eye. Okay? And I want them have to explain their score. Now, I wasn't going to have to do this because I'm aware how MMA fans are. We're violent people. We watch a violent sport.
Yeah, to be honest with you, my initial thought with it was this, to have like their own like cage in the middle of the crowd and the judges walk into it. Like you have one for each judge. And then if the fans want to throw something at them, they could. And then they would learn their lesson really fast. But I already know the way MMA fans are. Their guy would lose and they would lose a comfortable decision. Like, for example, people, if they saw Ikram Aliskerov lose and they were cheering for Ikram Aliskerov, they would still throw stuff at the judges, even though it was as clear as day that Ikram Aliskerov lost. I'm not saying that about like any Dagestani fan or anything. I'm saying it could apply to really anybody. MMA fans are just some of the worst kinds of people, so that idea wasn't necessarily a good idea.
Dude. The dude who scored it for Chito Vera had the most smug attitude about it. And he was like, I don't even listen to the commentary, bro. I can barely stand it.
Did he actually say that? Because I haven't heard that personally.
And according to where I was seating, I ruled Chito Vera as the winner. You need to lose your job. Legitimately. How are you still employed by anybody?
Yeah, and I'm not one to just scream and cry about people losing jobs, don't get me wrong, but like when it's that bad and if you really sit on it, then that's a big issue.
You need to attend a press conference, and I want fans to ask you a question. Hey, how did you think Chito Vera won? I want that to be a thing because of the smug, because judges feel like they're untouchable, because they are right now.
Yeah, I was about to respond to that. Like, they literally are untouchable.
Like, referees are more touchable than judges are, because most people know what Herb Dean looks like. Most people know what Jason Herzog looks like. You don't know what Sal D'Amato looks like. You should be able to look at their face and be like, okay, that's the guy that scored it. That sounds harsh, but it's because they feel untouchable. We need to break away from it.
No, it's an absolute must. It doesn't matter that it's harsh. It's exactly what must happen.
Last one for judging, and then I'll move into the actual rule set. All scoring has to be made public in between rounds.
I agree with this. I never understood the other reason why. Be it like, oh, well, people will coast at the end. The other fighter will also be more aggressive, you know?
All the arguments that I've heard for not this being the case is that, oh, well, if somebody wins round 1 and round 2, then they're going to take the third round off. They do that anyways.
That's also a good point. That's a very good point. I don't know why I didn't think about that. They will do that anyways.
They do it. Dude, Israel Adesanya took the entire fight off against Yoel Romero. There was not public scoring. No.
It's so true. And unless you're Max Holloway, you're going to do the same thing that Israel Adesanya did. Because honestly, though, not even to blame the fighter, why would you risk taking more damage when you know you're up to and you could just, you don't have to get as much brain damage. You know, most people aren't going to be willing to just, hey, you know what, I'm hearing it for the fans, despite what they say.
No, he was point fighting the entire fight because he knew it was a 10-9, 10-9, 10-9, 10-9. They already know. You want to know how I know they know? Because it's not like they've been fighting for their entire lives and they have an idea of what the scoring criteria is going to be. Might as well take the guessing game out of it, because then you're going to have another situation where fucking Pat the Predator Barry, is going to tell his wife, Rose Namajunas, that he hooked up with when she was... I'm getting so off topic right now.
I was about to say, where's that going?
But it is that annoying, because what you're going to get is a Rose Namajunas versus Carla Esparza fight where Pat Barry is telling her, you're winning the fight, honey. You're winning the fight. You got a 10-9 in that round. And then you got Trevor Whitman that literally had to kick back Pat Barry out of the corner because of how pissed he was with him.
Now, I've heard about that, but I never followed up on that story. I've never seen it, but I keep hearing people talk about that. That's crazy.
Dude, how bad do you gotta F up to get kicked out of your wife's corner? Yeah. Scoring has to be made public after every single round. I don't care how you do it, okay? Have the ring girl on the other side of the fucking number thing sew off what the score was. I don't care how you do it.
And people wouldn't complain about that either. Just have a new ring girl.
But you need to do this. Now, done with the judges. Maybe I'll come back to them later if I think of something, but now we're going to be going into the rule set, okay? If you are caught in a sub at the end of a round, you have to escape said sub to engage in the other round.
I remember this. I forgot about this. This is one of the. This is the reason I think I wanted to make this a reaction video, because again, guys, I have a playlist for all my YouTube channels of like videos that I'd like to react to one day. That's why I put it in there, because I found that such an interesting idea that nobody's ever thought about. Hear 'em out.
Let me explain, because this is something that ADCC does, and I love this rule.
Really, I didn't know that happened anywhere.
Somebody who has lost matches because I've had a fully synced in triangle, a fully under the chin rear naked choke on somebody. I am about to win because they have mentally already said to themselves, I'm winning by 2 points. I don't need to do anything. All I need to do is not tap for 5 more seconds. At ADCC, that shit doesn't fly. If I have a rear naked choke fully locked in on you, okay, and your consciousness is about to leave your body, you have to escape the rear naked choke to engage in the second round. How many fights have you seen where the dude that you bet on was going to win, but the round ends?
That's so true.
How many times has Charles Oliveira...
Sorry, and again, that's something that I have never thought about. I've never thought about that, because I like, if you're in a fight, and so many people talk about, like, well, it's not a real fight, it's a competition, but, like, at the end of the day, it's... I just agree with this. I think it'd be better for the sport if somebody's caught in a fully locked in submission. They need the opportunity to escape it. They shouldn't just be able to. Hey, the round's almost over. All I need to do is not tap. I love it.
They're had an anaconda or a dark choke locked in on somebody, and they're saved by the round. I understand somebody's gonna come into the comment section and be like, "Well, what about the comeback fights?" I'm sorry, no more. Because you're artificially lengthening what that fight would be. If I have a fully locked in triangle and you're losing consciousness and you cannot escape, you don't deserve to see the second round.
Now, I'm interested too if he would feel the same way, and if anybody down in the comment section down below, or anybody viewing this would feel the same way. Would you feel the same way if somebody was clearly hurt? I don't know if you could have somebody at the corner side kind of make that decision, or if the ref makes that decision where it's like, hey, there's some serious action going in right now. We are not ending the round. If somebody is on the ropes or something along those lines, I think I would really like that implemented along with this personally. And artificially lengthening it is actually a really good way to put it.
But I'm going to keep that same energy for finishes.
Sorry. I know I said I've watched this video before, but I don't remember exactly what was in it.
If you are in a finishing sequence and I am laying down ground and pound on your face, okay? I'll even take it for Alex Pereira versus Israel Adesanya. That fight should have continued after that. Israel Adesanya rocked Alex Pereira at the end of the first round. Israel Adesanya should have the ability to finish that fight if they go to the ground. Now, we can iron out the details. Maybe if somebody's rocked on the feet, then since there isn't a control position in play, then you can separate and go to the corner. But
I'd be okay with that too, but I would honestly like it either way.
If I am on top of you, laying down ground and pound, and the referee is about to step in, but you're saved by the bell. I ultimately want to get rid of being saved by the bell. I understand it's cool. I understand it's a cool thing to say. But how many discussions have been started over like, oh, well, he would have won, but he got saved by the bell? We're getting rid of that discussion entirely.
I like that. But I would also, again, I hope he doesn't say this right after this, but how do you feel about the idea of no rounds? That's something that I loved about watching one championship. It's just one 10-minute BJJ round. I loved it. There's no rounds. You don't go back to the corner. You just keep going. Is it the Eddie Bravo one too? I could be wrong about that, but there's one jiu-jitsu organization where the fight keeps going until somebody gets finished. I would like that as well.
No more getting saved by the bell. That can't be a thing. Fights will end sooner. Next thing I have written down over here. Divisions every 10 pounds. I don't even think this one's a controversial one. I think most people agree. The only argument that I have heard against a division every 10 pounds is they're like, well, I'm worried it's going to turn into boxing. To give you an idea of how fucked boxing is when it comes to divisions and champions, imagine if there was a weight class every 3.5 to 5 pounds, okay?
Yeah, no, he's correct in that. I think that 10 pounds is the perfect way to go about it. And I would be okay with 205 being the limit, but even then, like, I would say 205, 225, and then 265. But anything below 205 is just straight up 10 pounds.
Number one, 3.5 to 5 pounds. And for every one of those divisions, this is the UFC's equivalent, imagine if you had a PFL champion, a Bellator champion, a 1FC champion, a UFC champion, and a Pride FC champion. Now times that, every 3 pounds going from 120 all the way up to super heavyweight.
Yeah.
You have something over 50 different titles. That is boxing. What I'm talking about is that let's keep it up. We have 135, 45, 55, and I want 65, 70 to switch to 175, 185, 195, 205.
Yeah, I wonder why the UFC has it that way too. It just doesn't make sense to me. Is there a reason for that? Again, if anybody could shed some light on that, I would love to know down below in the comments.
And then anything above 205 can be heavyweight. And no more weight limit on a heavyweight. Create another division called super heavyweight. We are the only combat sport in existence that doesn't have a super heavyweight.
I disagree with that. You can have a super heavyweight division, but I like the 265-pound just heavyweight division because then you're just going to get like the fattest people, like sumo wrestlers in the world, and that's not personally what I want to watch in MMA.
And on top of that, we're also the only combat sport in history that has a limit on heavyweight. You're telling me human beings don't get bigger than Francis Ngannou? Who the fuck is Shaquille O'Neal then?
But Shaquille O'Neal, like, a lot of people who are heavier than 265 don't look like Shaquille O'Neal. You know, that's the issue.
What about Thor Bjornsson? Eddie Hall? We need people like that. That's what I want.
How many of them are realistically going to compete over in MMA, though? Maybe if it's just like one in-shape guy and a bunch of other random fat people like you see in the heavyweight division, to be honest with you. But like Aspinall versus the fatness of heavyweight, maybe then you could convince some people to go over it while the division's in its infancy. But I don't think that's a good idea personally.
Another thing I want added to this: soccer kicks. I am sick, and this is coming from a jiu-jitsu guy. I should be allowed to drill you with a soccer kick, stomp your face in, if you decide that is a viable strategy.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's taken away from it like just being a fight. And the idea of people that can just, like the Aljamain Sterling on all fours thing and nobody can hit, nobody can knee him, like the Piotr Jan move, should be entirely legal.
Legitimately bring that back. I want the Pride FC rule for soccer kicks and foot stomps to be brought back. I don't understand how I can slice you open with elbows, make you look like a fruit after a Fruit Ninja playthrough, but I can't soccer kick you?
Yeah, I'm completely with him on that.
I'm sorry, that's dumb. I can soccer kick your body when you're in Turtle. That's perfectly fine.
And that's another thing I don't understand. I always talk about that. I don't understand why more people don't do that. It's just kick a knee to the body when their opponent is on the ground.
Now, I will say this. No strikes to the back of the head. I'm not going that far. Strikes to the back of the head are legitimately dangerous.
And same with the spine.
Because getting hit behind your head, like, biologically, that is one of the most dangerous things that can happen. And I think that should be punished even harder.
Agreed.
Okay, and I have an idea for how we're going to punish that, but I want to go on this first. I should be allowed to soccer kick you if I can hit the side or the front of your face. And on top of that, knees to a grounded opponent. I don't care if you have two weight-bearing arms on the ground. When we have an Aljamain Sterling, a Movsar Evloev, plus unnamed fighters out the wazoo that are taking advantage of this rule set by just merely putting their fingertips on the ground.
It's not only that, you get to the point where fighters are literally on all fours moving forward and you can't do anything about it. Like, what is that? I completely agree with this.
That's not even the rule. The rule is you have to have one weight-bearing limb, palm on the mat. And people don't realize that. It's not fingertips. If my fingertips are on the mat, I'm allowed to drill you with a knee. That's what happened with Movsar Evloev. Arnold Allen should have won against Movsar Evloev. Okay? In my mind, Arnold Allen, not even in my mind. Arnold Allen was robbed of a victory against Movsar Evloev.
Now, I don't really have a comment on that fight. I would have to go back and see the sequence again because I don't really remember off the top of my head, but I know there was a lot of controversy on that one.
Because the rules are so confusing on what a grounded opponent is because we don't want a Piotr Jan versus Aljamain Sterling 2 to happen, that every judge, if it looks like a grounded knee, separate, re-engage. No. If we're going to overcomplicate the rule, I say fuck it. Get rid of the rule. If you want to put your hand on the canvas, you should be allowed to get drilled with a knee. Piotr Jan should still be champion. There you go. Honestly, 100%.
And I'm one of those Piotr Jan enjoyers. I still think that he is the best fighter at 135. I do believe that. Although Sean O'Malley has really proven himself, man. I was really wrong about that. I always thought it'd be something special, but man, I didn't know that he would dominate Shido the way that he did.
That needs to be a thing. Another thing that we need to add in here, okay? Bonuses. Hear me out. If you get a finish in any way, shape, or form, 50K bonus guaranteed.
That's an interesting idea. That would definitely incentivize more excitement in the sport and like kind of punish people coasting a little bit. Not necessarily punish them, but it would give them more of a reason to not fight the way they do. I don't know if 50K is actually a feasible idea. Yeah, you know what? The US... I can't see the UFC ever doing this, but they definitely could, you know? And I hate to be sitting back here and be one of those guys where it's like, oh my god, well, $1 billion company, they can definitely afford this. But like, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, I think they could actually afford this.
I am sick and tired of this game that we're playing where some motherfucker on the prelims is fighting their heart out and they get a finish, which is what the fans want to see. And then Dana White just pretends it doesn't exist and gives another 50K bonus to the millionaire Justin Gaethje.
Now, I've had issues with this and conflicting opinions on this in the past because I don't think just because somebody has gotten a lot of bonuses that they should be exempt from getting more bonuses. If you deserve the bonus, you deserve the bonus. But then again, like, I'm also, like, it would be nice to see someone on the prelims just completely have their life change with 50,000. You don't know what that could do to somebody. That changes lives, like I just said. That would be nice to see, but I think you should just flat out give it to the most deserving person. I see this argument a lot where it's like, oh, well, why is Justin Gaethje getting it? Not to just, like, trash on what Ethan's saying over here, but I mean, like, you hear that a lot. Oh my god, I can't believe Justin Gaethje got another bonus. Yeah, but Justin Gaethje just literally fought his heart out against Michael Chandler. You know what I'm talking about? I think just whoever deserves it. I don't think anyone should be exempt, and I also don't think that just because somebody's on the prelims, you should just look more to that to give them a bonus.
We'll get into what the fight of the night bonus would be, but I think a knockout bonus, a submission bonus, if you want to give submission artists $25,000 instead of $50,000, by all means do it. That's more money than they would ever get in jiu-jitsu career. Might as well just give it to them now. All finishes should get a bonus. I don't care what it is.
I think something feasible would be like another extra 10, 15K. I just can't see the UFC ever doing 50, to be honest.
You will get more finishes. It'll work. Also, I just remember what I was going to say. Eye pokes, strikes to the back of the head, we attack your purse.
Yep. Oh, I was about to say that. One FC started.
There's a really cool rule with here. They give you either a yellow card or a red card. If you commit an illegal action, even one time, we take $25,000 out of your purse. Instantaneously. The fact is we're in a sport right now where I can poke you in the eye one time legally.
Now, this is something that, like, not even one time. You can do it many, many times. It's come to a point where I'll use this past card for an example. I know I ended up losing this bet, but one of the reasons why I bet on Muhammad Naimov to win is because, hey, this dude isn't afraid to cheat. If he's getting taken down, he'll grab the fence, he'll poke you in the eyes, he'll kick you in the nuts. That's an advantage. People take advantage of that. John Jones has done it his entire career.
John Jones, if he pokes somebody in the eye,
I swear to God, I don't remember that he was going to say this.
Should be able to take 10% of his purse for doing that. If you think that getting eye poked in one eye, I have heard some of the most delusional takes in the world. Oh, well, he only got poked in one eye. It's not like it affects the other one. Your eyes are sympathetic, dummy. You ever get your eye poked really bad, and now like both your eyes are watered because your eyes are... Oh, I hate that argument.
There's a lot of unintelligent people out there.
Because, brother, if you eye poke somebody, you should lose 10% of your fight purse, guaranteed.
I agree with that. I would take it a step further, to be honest with you. Not even just the eye poke. The people doing this. Because there's no reason to do this. There's a reason to do this. There's a reason to do this. There is a reason to even, like, I will even say, like, put your palm out a little bit. But to just, this is ridiculous, and there's no reason for it other than the John Jones walk in front of your eye.
In my mind, that is legal as cheating. A low blow should be 5%. Dictate what the percentages are going to be. We should immediately punish illegal actions by going after their purse first and foremost.
Dude, I would do 50%. I don't even care. I don't care. 50%.
Okay? No more warnings. Attack the purse. If they do it multiple times, immediately disqualify.
Agreed. Completely.
Another thing I want to add. Let me find out where I'm at. About the fight of the night bonus. I think along with Dana White doing a fight of the night bonus, and I think fight of the night should be more than 50K. Now, this is a controversial opinion, I know, but I think bonuses should be at least 75 and higher. If we're going to be doing the KO bonus, you can knock that down a little bit, because I know we want to penny pinch a little bit. But a fight of the night bonus, especially on a numbered card, to me should be $75,000 to $100,000 flat rate.
Now, if you had those extra bonuses and you cut them down, I would agree with this.
300,000, 100,000. I want to get more Max Holloway versus Justin Gaethje moments.
Yep.
And I either want Dana White not to pick a fight of the night, and to get fans to get into it.
Oh, I remember. This is another reason why I really, really wanted to react to this video. Because listen to this. This is a great idea.
Like, for UFC fans, go on a mobile app. Go on the UFC app that almost like 10 people use. And they should be allowed to vote for what the fight of the night should be.
The only issue with this, too, though, because that's fantastic to get fans involved. And most of the time it would work out. But yeah, you could just implement this because, again, like I said, it would work out most of the time. The only problem is once you get it like a Charles Oliveira, no matter, like, Charles Oliveira could have the worst performance of all time and the worst fight of all time. They could have had a Rose Namajunas versus Carlos Esparza type performance, and the fans would be like, Charles Oliveira! Charles Oliveira!
Everything from the early prelims to the main event, you should be allowed to vote for what you believe the fight of the night should be, and that should be the People's Choice Award.
I
They
agree
played
with that.
with this a little bit, but it was like a crypto.com where, hey, if the fans vote, you get 10 Ethereum, some bullshit like that. No. 100,000, Fans Choice Award. Who cares if it's like Conor McGregor again? I'm sure he's going to put on a good fight.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point. Like, when has Charles Oliveira ever put on a bad fight?
Fans tend to pick what the exciting fights are pretty well. I think a lot of people underestimate combat sports fans when it comes to choosing what's exciting. And
I don't know how I feel about that.
no more bonuses for Dagestanis. I'm just kidding. Umar's pretty cool. I like Umar. Another thing, okay? Mandatory strip of champions if they cannot defend the belt every 6 to 10 months. I think that is more than fair.
No, I agree with that.
In my mind, to be considered an active champion, unless there is a medical procedure that is actively prolonging it, and even then I'm 50-50 on. I think if you are fairly healthy, every 6 months, you should be defending your title. If you do not, mandatory either put up an interim title or strip.
No, not the interim title, because then they're just going to hold on to it like they usually do, and then we're just going to have interim titles all over the place.
How about this? I don't have a script to figure out like what my exact line of thinking was. I think this is what I was thinking, and I like it. Okay? If you do not defend the belt in 6 months, an interim belt should be put up for grabs. If you do not defend the belt for over a year, mandatory strip.
I don't know, like, that. It's an okay idea. I don't hate the idea, but that would kind of take away from the idea of, like, finally winning the championship. You know, oh, well, this guy's champion now. Yay. You know, I just don't like that personally.
To John Jones. In my mind, John Jones, if he's not fighting till UFC 309 in November, that'll be almost 1 exact year. In my mind, Tom Aspinall, if he's not going to be next, John Jones should be stripped. It has gotten to that point of delusion where John Jones is flirting with the idea of fighting Alex Pereira over a Tom Aspinall that I do believe at this point John Jones should have been stripped of the title.
He should have been stripped a long time ago.
You want to fight Stipe? Fine, fight Stipe, but it's not going to be for a title. You are hurting the integrity of this division. Every little bit of argument that I've talked about with Stipe Miocic. Understand this. The only reason that I am coming at it with John Jones should be stripped is how crazy we've gotten to this point of trying to diminish what Tom Aspinall is worthy of doing in that division.
And it's crazy to me that fans would disagree with this. I'm not saying, like, there's a lot of fans that are finally turning on John Jones. Don't get me wrong, and we've had plenty of videos covering the topic, but it's still incredible to me that people do side with John Jones. They just, oh, my, yeah, John Jones is the GOAT. He can do what he wants. He deserves this fight with Stipe.
Stipe Miocic hasn't done shit in 2 years, hasn't won a fight in 4 years, won 100%. He hasn't beaten a guy that was in the division. The last dude that he beat that isn't retired right now is Andre Arlovsky.
Yeah, people will ignore this fact, but then go, Colby Covington shouldn't have fought Leon Edwards.
In 2017. Stipe Miocic should not be fighting for the title. If John Jones wants to do it, fine. Do it without a title.
Agreed.
But yeah, mandatory strip after a year. Interim gets put up every 6 months.
I like the idea of just strip after 10 months, assuming that there's no injury involved. But then again, like, I would imagine that there's times where fighters just, hey, I'm injured. You know, there's... I would imagine that that's all they do sometimes.
These divisions are getting held up by Leon Edwards, all these other, like... Listen, Islam Makhachev, I like Islam. Defend the title every 6 months. You're doing better now. I'll give you that. Continue. Don't be playing this bullshit like all the other Dagestanis do, and they only...
Is that Islam's fault, though, or is that Dana White's fault? I don't really know, because we know that they like to save him for particular cards. It also could be his fault, so I don't really know about that one.
You ever want to fight in the Middle East? No. You are going to have to fight 2 times a year, at least, to be a active champion. Now here comes my controversial ones.
All right.
Pay-per-view prices should either be lowered or hear me out. We completely get rid of ESPN Plus.
Ooh.
Hear me out. This is the big business moves that I'm making.
All right.
What is it that ESPN Plus gives the UFC that the UFC cannot get themselves? Is it being a household name? Is it? Is it really? The ESPN has tried their absolute best throughout the decades to diminish what MMA was. I maintain that. They didn't even let the Amanda Nunes, Daniel Cormier, they did not let them inside of the ESPYs. And instead...
I forgot about that. He's making a good point over here.
This still makes me mad. I'm going to spit some venom on this one. They allowed women's basketball players to get a fucking ESPY before they allowed Amanda Nunes to get anything.
Now, I completely disagree with him. He's completely incorrect, YouTube. I'm very, very grateful to be on your platform. Women's basketball deserves nothing but the greatest and best awards that you can ever give them.
Before they allowed Daniel Cormier to get anything, they had to get the ESPYs in the fucking parking lot.
I know, that was horrible. I forgot about that, to be honest.
I'm not kidding. You can find the video of this. They could not be given the reward in front of a crowd. Instead, they did a little bit of a promo. Here's your men's MMA fighter of the year. Here's
Yeah.
your women's MMA fighter of the year. Here's your SP.
And then they had like this grand event for everything else. It was crazy. I forgot about that, man. I felt bad for DC.
Hey, get the fuck out. We got some
I actually don't remember who got it for the women's. Was it Amanda Nunes? Yeah, I think you just mentioned that.
women's basketball players that really deserve it. Nobody cares. At this point, I'm sorry. I barely care about normal NBA. I am a UFC fan through and through. I don't even know who won like the NFL SP. And the reason that I am that petty on that is because that is the attitude that ESPN has had about MMA for decades. I'm not talking about
he makes a really good point, but one of the reasons I really do like ESPN is because ever since ESPN came around, we've had weekly cards, and I think that's infinitely better for the sport. You just look at the depression that people fall into, MMA fans, when they go a weekend without fights. So I think it's better with that, and if they were to continue weekly cards without ESPN, then I'd be kind of with them over here, but at the end of the day, I'm pro ESPN.
The people in it, okay? I'm talking about the executives that are higher up. They do not give a fuck about MMA. They hate that the UFC has become popular. They hate that MMA is now starting to replace boxing in terms of being the global combat sport.
Why do you think that is? Do you think Disney has something to do with it? I don't know, because like there's a lot of MMA fans. Like, look at the issues that just came about with Sean Strickland. Like, that might have been that's my only idea of why they don't like MMA, because he's right. It's clear that they don't necessarily like MMA, but why? I would imagine that's the only thing I can come up with.
Of the world. If you don't believe me, look at the numbers. I'm sorry, boxing has every reason to absolutely decimate the UFC, but they haven't been able to do that because the UFC is outperforming them year after year with putting on consistently good events. Get rid of ESPN. There's nothing that ESPN will bring to the table that can't be replicated. They are already a household name. People knew about Conor McGregor before the ESPN deal.
They didn't necessarily help with that.
Reebok deal to appease ESPN. People blame Dana White for the sponsorships. Bring back sponsorships on the trunks. The reason that Reebok, Venom, all of those are a thing is because it was written into the contract that for UFC to be a part of ESPN, all the athletes had to look more professional.
I didn't know that, actually. I thought that was the UFC's doing. Huh.
They had to have a legit partner. And guess who is a pretty big donor to ESPN? Reebok. It's not even a conspiracy. I don't even blame them. It's business. But at the same time, if you're not going to give UFC the respect they deserve, I mean, you called it human cockfighting 20 years ago. I'm sorry. I don't have much respect for you.
I mean, people can change their tune after so long. Plus, you never know, because if it was the popular thing back then to not like MMA, a lot of people are just NPCs and bots, and they repeat what people tell them to. So I don't know how much I really want to hold that one into consideration.
I say UFC cuts ties with ESPN. No more ESPN Plus. Make pay-per-views cheaper. Cut out the middleman of ESPN Plus. Create your own streaming platform. That's how I think it's going to go. Anybody who's followed me from TikTok, I have always maintained this is how it's going to go in the next 10 years. It's going to take a while, but this is how I think it's going to go. The pay-per-view structure is going to be completely and utterly outdated. We are dealing with a generation that knows how to pirate more. Like, think about this. They never thought our generation was going to be better at pirating than better at buying a pay-per-view.
Guys, you know what? That's a really good point. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I am the only person I know that purchases the pay-per-views because I don't want to go through the hassle. I think it's just easier because what I do, typically I watch fights with my family, sometimes with my friends, but even if it's with friends, you'd want like the most professional thing that you can get. Like every once in a while, I'll have a big party at my house and then we'll have everybody come over, and when we do that, I just purchase a pay-per-view. It's not worth always going on a laptop, and some of my friends do the same thing. If they were to have people over, they'll just buy the pay-per-view, but typically every weekend, I watch fights with me, my wife, my sister, sometimes my cousins, and a couple of my uncles will come over there, and my family comes over, and we split the pay-per-view price. It's really, really worth it in that sense to me, but I'm literally the only person I know that buys almost every single, well, I personally buy every single pay-per-view, but I'm the only person I know that regularly purchases UFC pay-per-views. Everyone else kind of laughs at me for that. Why would you waste that kind of money? It's just, it's more convenient for me. That's how I see it, but I understand not everybody, and I am in such a grateful place in my life where I can afford to purchase UFC pay-per-views and not have it break the bank, but even then, I'm just splitting it with my family, you know? So, it's really nothing, and Ethan's completely right when he's saying here is everybody's just going to pirate either way. I want to hear what else he has to say about it.
It is easier to pirate than it is to make money to buy it. Pay-per-views are more expensive than they've ever been. $20 million worth of pay-per-views were pirated to watch Tyson Fury versus Usyk. That is going to continue to happen because more and more people are going to know how to do it.
Yep.
So I say...
And it's not difficult to do at all.
Stop making it embarrassing by hiding your pay-per-view numbers event after event. If you're going to do pay-per-views, make them cheaper. Cut out ESPN Plus. Start your own streaming platform. Make it with TKO. That's what I think it is. UFC and WWE forms a company called TKO. TKO becomes a streaming platform for WWE events, grappling events, kickboxing events, because I don't think a lot of people know this. Zuffa, who is the parent company of the UFC, is trying to get into boxing and kickboxing. I think in the future, Zuffa is going to be a mega combat sport corporation called TKO. You're going to have Zuffa Boxing, Zuffa Kickboxing, Zuffa Muay Thai. The UFC, WWE, all that's going to be under a streaming platform called TKO.
That's a really, really interesting theory. And I don't disagree with it, but I'm not completely for it. I mean, like, that wouldn't shock me. He makes a really good case for that's what's going to happen.
You subscribe to that, all the pay-per-views are going to be cheaper, and it'll be a direct competitor to ESPN.
Yeah?
That is my whole theory on how that's going to go, and that is going to either get rid of pay-per-views or make it cheaper. And there you go. That is everything that I would change about the UFC in this legendary rant. Thank you guys for staying along. And if there is something that I missed that you want to change about the sport, put it in the comment section down below.
I actually think he covered a lot of it over here. And I really enjoyed the video, guys. So like I said earlier, if you guys haven't for some reason subscribed over to CageSide Convos, please go do so. I love his channel over there. And even if you want to go check out the second channel, Ethan on everything, he's a very, very interesting content creator. And he's definitely top 5 best MMA channels of all time, in my opinion at least. Great content. I found myself agreeing with pretty much everything that he said. The biggest thing that I agree with is judges, and the most interesting one by far, and one that I would even say like I like even more than the judging idea, is to have the finishing sequences be allowed to continue. I loved it, and I thought it was a very interesting video. There's a lot that needs to change with this sport, and this is a great start, and the best thing we can do so far is have people talk about it. Will it have an effect on MMA? Probably not, but you never know. Can't hurt to talk about, right? Guys, thank you very, very much for watching this video. If you are interested, you can check out 2 more reaction videos on the screen right now. I will see you over there, guys. Take care.